All right, let's go ahead and kick things off. Thank you so much for tuning in today for this event with Amazon Launchpad, talking about the crowdfunding to e-commerce journey. I'm Brittany Nelson, Partnerships Manager at Indiegogo, and here with me today is Casey Rogers and Andre McLaughlin from the Amazon Launchpad team, as well as our two very special entrepreneur guests, Alexander Eburn and Tracy Liu. So really quick agenda for the next hour. We're going to kick things off with a quick round of intros. Then we're going to give a little bit of background on Amazon Launchpad before jumping into our discussion with Alexander and Tracy. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, please use that Q&A button at the bottom, and we'll try to get to them at the end. All right, without further ado, let's meet our panelists today. It is my pleasure to introduce the CEO and founder of PrepDeck, Alexander Eburn. Alexander?
Yeah, hi, thanks Brittany. Great to be here. As Brittany mentioned, my name's Alexander and I'm the founder and CEO of PrepDeck. We launched our product on Indiegogo in 2018 and have been growing the business since then. And I'm excited to share with you guys a little bit of our story and our transition to direct to consumer and our partnership with Amazon. A little bit of background about me. I'm originally from Australia, but have been in the US for about 13 years. And I have a background in building and operating consumer brands, particularly in the luxury consumer space. So happy to share any knowledge or my experience over the last few years.
Awesome, thank you. All right, next we have Tracy Liu, the Chief Operating Officer of Wavy. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Like she said, I'm Tracy, Wavy COO. We are a startup that's reinventing on-the-go gear for families. And our first product is the Pico travel car seat, which we launched on Indiegogo in late 2018. And it's a foldable, compact car seat that's designed with the environment in mind. I've been with Wavy since day one, and the last couple of years have been quite the adventure. I am just so very proud of how far we've come since our Indiegogo campaign. I'm just super excited to be a part of the panel today as well. So thanks so much for having me.
Awesome, thanks, Tracy. All right, next we have Casey Rogers from Amazon Launchpad.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. My name's Casey. I'm on the business development team within Amazon Launchpad. I've been at Amazon for 4.5 years now, and my role is to go out and find products and brands that we think would be a good fit for Launchpad. Oftentimes, that's products that kind of fit this mold of being unique, innovative, differentiated in some capacity. So happy to be here and happy for everyone who was able to make the webinar and an event today. And looking forward to chatting with our brands today. I'll hand it over to Andre.
Thank you, Casey, and thank you, Brittany, for having us here. Really happy to be participating in this event. I'm excited to be, speaking with Tracy and Alexander. I've been with the Amazon team actually for 5 years in May, and I've been with Launchpad for a little over three years. Been in the e-com space for about 11 years, and ultimately, same team as Casey, business development, identifying unique and innovative brands with phenomenal products, differentiation that they're looking for Launchpad to help them really showcase those awesome brands. So happy to be here and happy to participate in this event.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. Casey, you can go ahead and share your screen. Everyone, before we hear more about Alexander and Tracy's stories, Casey's going to give us a really quick introduction to the Amazon Launchpad program.
Perfect. Thank you. So, as a high-level overview, for either as a customer or a brand owner, if you have or haven't heard about Launchpad, just kind of wanted to give an overview of what our program's all about. So, at a high level, we started Launchpad back in 2015, and it's designed to support startup companies and entrepreneurs who have unique, innovative, and differentiated products. We also wanted to create a destination where customers could find these kind of new, great, hot brands on Amazon. So we work with brands across a wide range of product categories and price points, just as long as the product or brand itself kind of fits that mold of being innovative in nature. The categories that we support range from electronics, home and kitchen, sports and outdoors, grocery, pet supplies, and many other different product types and brands. The brands that we bring into Launchpad are all operating through Amazon's direct-to-consumer model through Seller Central, and must fit the criteria of either being new to Amazon, or if they're existing sellers, their seller account must be less than 3 years old and less than $5 million in their trailing 12-month sales. So to change gears a little bit here, let me scroll down. So diving into kind of the key features and benefits, we have 3 main pillars or kind of areas of focus, which include discoverability, presentation, and tools and support. As far as discoverability goes, our program has 2 different storefronts that we manage. We have the Amazon Launchpad page, and we have another page that we call Watch and Shop. Amazon Launchpad is where we feature all the brands that we have in our program. A quick way to get there, you can go to amazon.com/launchpad. But in essence, we have a bunch of different collections and campaigns that we feature that covers all the different product types that I mentioned before. So electronics, home and kitchen, sports and outdoors, grocery, things like that. We have great opportunities for brands to better tell their stories to Amazon customers. You know, if they're doing something good from a sustainable standpoint, a social standpoint, you know, Black-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, family-owned businesses, things like that, that we can help highlight to Amazon customers. And then also we run some bigger marquee events throughout the year, whether that's, you know, January being New Year, New You, Mother's Day collections, Father's Day collections, back to school collections, holiday gift guides, all that kind of stuff to help highlight brands. Our other storefront's called Watch and Shop. Watch and Shop we created about 2 years ago, and it's primarily for brands who have great video content. So brands can send us their video. We can feature it on the Watch and Shop page. It's got a little bit different look and feel than what you're used to seeing on Amazon. It's very much kind of lifestyle driven. Customers can watch the brand video directly on that page. There's a little bit of a blurb about the features and benefits of the product and brand. And then customers can click shop now and it goes directly to that brand's listing. As far as presentation goes, so it's kind of this 1-2 punch of saying, hey, you know, let's drive more customer traffic to your listing. And then once we get a customer on your listing, we want to try to drive better conversion. So there's a lot of different things that can drive conversion for, you know, brands on Amazon, but things like having a good title and good bullet points and good imagery, obviously having good reviews helps. As we scroll down the listing on Amazon, above the review section, you'll see a section that says product description. And any brand on Amazon who has brand registry complete has access to what we call A+ content. And that's where you can add lifestyle imagery, additional text and stuff like that. For brands within Launchpad, they have access to a different set of modules that we call A+ Premium. And that allows brands to do things like embed video content directly in that section. There's some really cool features where you can scroll back and forth between images. One of the features kind of has a heat map where you can pop up, it pops up a blurb about, you know, what that particular feature is for that product. Also, brands within Launchpad have a badge that say verified member of Amazon Launchpad. So customers can associate your product with the innovation behind Launchpad. And then lastly, as far as tools and support goes, so when a brand joins the program, they still manage everything about their account through Seller Central. Then they also get access through Launchpad to a site that we call Brand HQ. And that's where our team will post news, announcements, updates, new pilot programs, things like that that Launchpad's rolling out. It's also an opportunity for brands to reach out directly to our team. So if they've got questions about Launchpad strategy, different tools and programs that we're offering, our team can be a resource. And then also brands can submit for different marketing campaigns and collections that we're running through that particular tool as well. Next, just to chat about the kind of terms and conditions and program fees for Launchpad. So on the left here, we have what I just talked about, presentation, discoverability, and support. Also to mention, there are fees associated with Launchpad. So for our brands that are doing under $1 million in their trailing 12-month sales, they're paying an additional 5% for the Launchpad program, and that's tacked on to your standard referral fees within Amazon. So that could be our net new brands to Amazon. It could be brands that have been selling on Amazon for the last 2 years. They'd all kind of group into that, what we call stage 1 sellers, and be paying 5%. We do have a 12-month minimum for brands when they join the program. If at any time after that 12 months, if they say, hey, thanks, you know, thanks for helping me grow my business, I'm in a much better place now than I was before, is hopefully the case. And in essence, if they'd like to leave at that point, they can submit an exit survey, and it takes about, at least we need a 30-day written notice to unwind the marketing and merchandising and fees associated with Launchpad, and they're off and running from there. If a brand wants to stay in the program for longer, they're more than happy to, and we're glad to continue to support the brand. We also have some incentives for brands as they continue to grow on Amazon and hit certain thresholds in terms of the volume that they're doing. So when a brand hits the $600,000 mark and they've been in Launchpad for 6 months, they're then assigned a dedicated account manager as a part of our strategic account services team. So both the brands that we have on the panel today have access to that team, which is great. And I'm sure they'll share their interactions with that team. But in essence, it's somebody you can chat with, talk about strategy, talk about best practices and other tools within Amazon, as well as the Launchpad features that we have. And then when a brand hits the $1 million mark in their trailing 12-month sales, then that fee gets reduced for Launchpad from 5% down to 3%. Today we're talking about Launchpad US, but Launchpad also exists in several other countries as well. So we have Launchpad in Europe, we have Launchpad in India, and we recently launched Launchpad Australia as well. So if brands are interested in selling their products in other countries, they can reach out to our team and we can make the necessary introductions. And then if brands are interested in joining the Launchpad program, so there's a link here. We'll also feature this at the end of the event, as well as a contact for you guys to reach out to us directly to further chat about the Launchpad program.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey. All right, let's get into the discussion. Really excited to hear kind of the personal stories of Tracy and Alexander. So maybe let's start with Tracy and Wavy. So going back to the beginning, can you tell us a little bit about how Wavy got started, how you and the team came up with the idea, and how you brought it to life?
Sure. Tio, our CEO, he first noticed parents lugging around these huge car seats through the airport. We've all seen them. It's probably me at one point. They're just running through the terminal. They're lugging around these huge car seats with luggage and kids in tow. And Tio, being a father of 3 himself, he just knew the struggle all too well. And he thought there has to be a better way. And from there, the idea of the Pico was born. We set out to create a lightweight portable car seat to solve that exact parent pain point. And we wanted to make it beautiful and sustainably designed as well. So
Awesome, awesome. And so tell us a little bit about the journey. Like, how did you discover Indiegogo? Why did you decide to go the crowdfunding path?
yeah, sure. So, we were creating a kids safety product, right? That's highly regulated. And we were trying to challenge this perception and industry that was built on this idea that bigger equals better. And we needed a platform to tell our story and fully illustrate that pain point that we were trying to solve for. And crowdfunding supporters tend to be a little bit more open to innovative and out of the box ideas. So we really wanted to pre-test the market, gather data and learn from the experience, just gauge demand and gather that honest customer feedback, et cetera, and then take that information and make adjustments prior to entering the market, just to ensure that we were optimizing our positioning and, our chance for success. So that's honestly one of the reasons why we chose Indiegogo over other platforms as well, is because there was additional data provided to us around remarketing. So where we could better understand who was coming to our site and build lookalike audiences for retargeting as we were ramping up our digital marketing strategy at launch.
Awesome, awesome. So you guys had a great success story on Indiegogo. You raised over $520,000 with over 2,000 backers. And originally, I know this was a little while ago, back in 2018. Can you tell us a little bit about the crowdfunding experience on Indiegogo? Like if you had any challenges or, just a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah, sure. Our goal was to raise $50,000. And even though our CEO kept saying we should be raising around $500,000, we were like, okay, but we honestly didn't know what to expect. And I remember it went live around 6 p.m. one evening, and we thought we'd all go home and, we'll check on it in the morning. And as we were packing up our stuff, we kept getting more and more backers with each passing minute, and our eyes were just glued to the screen. We just couldn't believe it. And we ended up reaching our goal in under an hour, 58 minutes to be exact. So we were so excited. We were running around the office, just celebrating. And it was, it still remains one of my favorite memories, since joining this startup. We ended up raising over $500,000 over the life of the campaign. And now we're just not allowed to doubt our CEO's predictions anymore. So
That's awesome. What do you guys think attributed to that success? Like, what were the things that you put in place to see that type of raise?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, especially since, Brittany, you had wanted us to kind of think through any advice for entrepreneurs that may be tuning in. And, I was thinking about that. And, I would just say that it's really important to make strategic investments in marketing and PR upfront, which is what we did. I think that's one of the reasons why we had such success, not only on Indiegogo, but also on Amazon as well, because we invested in PR back when we only had a prototype. We drummed up interest in our product and we bolstered our mailing list before launching on Indiegogo. And because we had primed the pump, we had supporters waiting in the wings who were already interested in our idea. And we rode that wave into our DTC launch a few months later, and that momentum carried through to our Amazon launch later that year as well. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Tracy. Alexander, let's switch over to Prep Deck. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of the origin story, how you came up with the idea and how you brought it to life?
Yeah, sure. So I actually, I really invented this product to sort of scratch my own itch, so to speak. So in our house, I do the cooking. It's sort of always been that way. And back when I first had the idea for Prep Deck, it was just my wife and I. And the way that it would work in our kitchen was I would do the cooking and she would do the cleaning. And that worked really well because when I cook, I make a massive mess. I mean, there's literally just stuff everywhere. But as I started to cook more and more and more, I learned about this technique, which is called mise en place, which in the kitchen, it basically means you organize everything in its place. And, my approach to it was like, if you prep your ingredients first before you start cooking, your cooking results are going to be better. It's kind of like when you watch a cooking show and magically they have everything nicely laid out in front of them, and then they're just having this wonderful experience cooking this perfect meal. You can actually achieve that in the kitchen yourself, and it just really de-stresses everything. So I started doing that, but when I did, I was actually making more of a mess. So I was using like cereal bowls and Tupperware and soy sauce dishes, and I was trying to like organize all this myself, but then I would like dig through the kitchen drawers trying to find my prepping tools. And, I just was starting to get frustrated, but I got even more frustrated because my wife was actually pregnant with our first daughter and she had no interest in being in the kitchen anymore. So then it got worse because I was left to I was prepping, cooking, cleaning, planning, I was doing everything. And I was like, man, this just kind of sucks. I was starting to fall out of love with something that I really enjoyed. And that was a real bummer. And so I was just thinking through the problem that I was experiencing. And it just sort of hit me like, why is there a way to organize all these other parts of your life? Even you can organize your kitchen cabinets, you can organize your desk, your car, your clothing closet, everything, but there's nothing that helps keep you organized while you're cooking, something that we all do almost every day. And so I had a vision for this product, which was a way to bring you a system that would sit in front of you and just guide you through and combine all of these things that I was experiencing. So how to be more efficient when I'm cooking, how to stay organized, how to follow this process of mise en place. And so I had an idea. I knew that it could be something. And my first thought was like, I'll just go buy one. Like, surely someone has this solution. And there wasn't. And then I was just at a time in my life where I was in a good position. I could put the time and energy into thinking through like, what would it look like? I could sketch it out. I could maybe even start to think about, oh, could this really be a product? And so once I got to that point and I saw there was nothing else like it, I just started working on it. And I thought like this could be a product that would be really interesting. And from there, I took it, pen to paper, and then paper to an industrial designer to prototyping, and sort of it built from there. But that's how I got started.
Wow. And so at what stage were you at when you started to think about crowdfunding or started to look into Indiegogo?
It's pretty early. I mean, I think, when you have an innovative product idea, you're getting feedback all the time from people around you, friends, family, and they're all telling you good things. I mean, if it's a good idea, they'll tell you good stuff. If it's garbage, they'll probably tell you that too, maybe. But, I was getting a lot of good feedback and the prototypes were coming in a direction that we wanted. And I was like, I'm like, I'm going to have to get to, well, first of all, to create a product like Prep Deck is very expensive. Like a physically tooled product is expensive. You have to invest a lot of money in hard tooling to actually bring it to market, and then minimum order quantities and a lot of things. And I was like, well, there's two ways to go about it. You can go and raise money, go and do that, and then maybe try to sell it and no one's interested. And now you're $1 million deep and nobody wants to buy it. Or you can use this crowdfunding strategy, which will tell you very quickly if anybody actually agrees with you that it's a good idea. Because I felt there's a big difference between your friends and family saying, yeah, it's great, go do it, like, yeah, and then people actually taking money out of their wallet and giving it to you and saying, like, yes, we want that, and that can make a difference in our life. And so I just saw the crowdfunding platform and Indiegogo as a way to accomplish that. So we would find out if people actually cared. Plus, of course, we would then have some capital coming in to either support an additional raise or to actually straight up fund the development of the product. So I figured fairly early on it was a great way for me to get the product to life in a way that was dealing with real consumers.
Awesome. Awesome. So I see you also launched back in 2018 and had huge success on Indiegogo, over 860K and over 5,000 backers. Walk us through that journey a little bit. What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, probably not dissimilar to other brands that have a pretty good campaign. I mean, it was a wild ride. Like there was some amazing highs that come with that. I mean, some of the best sort of emotionally charged days of the business were during that campaign, and so it was a great experience. I invested because I'm familiar with building brands. I actually invested quite a lot before the campaign, so we didn't do a ton of PR like Wavy, but I invested in ensuring that we had a brand presence, that the story of the brand was considered, the aesthetic, the visuals, what the brand stood for. So we spent a lot of time bringing that. So then to see that then resonate was incredibly rewarding. Also, it allowed us to create, to generate enough capital to move production forward. And so that process sort of accelerated very, very quickly. So that was really exciting as well. But then the real work begins, so yeah, we had a great experience. So I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Switching gears a little bit, Casey and Andre, like hearing those two kind of brand origin stories, does that kind of I mean, obviously these brands are now on Amazon Launchpad, but maybe you can answer a little bit like what type of brands or campaigns does Amazon Launchpad typically look for?
Yeah, I can take that from you, Brittany. So yeah, I think this event hits it on the head, right? With what Tracy and Alex are saying and what their brands are bringing to the table. We're primarily looking for products and brands that have innovation or unique features, right? Our program helps showcase innovation across a variety of different categories to Amazon customers. So working with Indiegogo, this presents a really cool opportunity for us to identify trends in innovation and determine customer interest via number of backers and dollars raised by campaign. But in addition to that, I think we're also looking to identify those cool brand stories. So those are the types of insights that we're looking for, or just types of brands that we're trying to grab from Indiegogo and other crowdfunding platforms alike.
Awesome. And then is there a particular like stage that a brand has to be in before they can start working with Launchpad?
I can take that one. So, no, not necessarily. We work with brands kind of across the timeline and spectrum in terms of where they are in their product cycle and kind of life cycle. So we work with brands who maybe are just starting crowdfunding, or maybe they've got a prototype, and they'll talk to Launchpad, and we'll kind of be along with them, I guess, throughout the process, and can help guide them in terms of what their strategy is post crowdfunding and things like that, and at least be in the loop. And then once a brand is done with crowdfunding and they're ready to go to market, that's when we really start to go full throttle with brands and help them get set up on Amazon and whatnot. Also, there's brands that are existing sellers on Amazon who maybe they have a new product launch and they decide to go through crowdfunding. So in that case, they already have some familiarity with Amazon, or if they're already in Launchpad, and can leverage crowdfunding, and then we can support their brand from there. For brands that are new to Amazon, oftentimes we can at least introduce them to folks on our direct sales teams who can help set up their account, help create the listings, kind of navigate, how to ship inventory to Amazon and all that kind of stuff. So it can really be at any point, and we're happy to chat with brands at any point throughout their life cycle. In times prior when we were used to be going to trade shows, we're talking to brands who just have a prototype, and we'll stay in touch with them until they're ready to go to market. So it can be any and all between.
Very cool. All right, let's go back to Tracy. So Wavy raised over $500,000 on Indiegogo, and then the campaign ends. What was the next step? How did you figure out what you were going to do next after Indiegogo?
Yeah, I mean, we just got to work, like Alex said, that's when the real work begins. We finalized the product and we got it into production as fast as we could. I would say that the campaign really helped inform material purchasing and inventory planning for us specifically. So for example, we realized during the campaign that we were way off on our color assumptions. We had 4 colorways and we didn't think that the earth colored Pico would sell at all. And it ended up being the second most popular color after jet black. So we adjusted our purchasing and planning immediately. And, we're really glad that we did, because those early indicators and customer insights that we received during the campaign was a harbinger for what was to come post-launch.
Awesome. Alexander, what about you? You've raised a ton of money on Indiegogo. You have thousands of backers waiting for their perks. What were the next steps? How did you figure out what to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that at least my experience was that is the toughest part of the transition from idea to full product in market, is that transition from crowdfunding. So the way that our campaign ran, we raised some of our money through the in-demand program. So we knew at a certain point, okay, we have X raised, we need to deliver that by Y date. So we went to work on that, and then we just sort of continued taking essentially pre-sales as we continued to grow the campaign. So we were in an interesting spot. We had a lot of work still to do on the product side. So we had to really finish. We had the product developed, but we had to finish developing it for manufacturing, which is almost a completely different thing. So we had a lot of work that was needed there to get that into production, tooling, testing when it was coming out. There were lots of trips to Asia, and every little nuance that when you go to launch, you maybe don't think about, but are required. There's so many different little testings that are required, packaging design, the manual, the inserts, the fulfillment, like how are these products now going to get to all these different countries around the world who have purchased the product. And when you haven't manufactured it before, a lot of those things are based on assumptions. And then you make it and it's like, okay, put it on the scales, measure the box, now go get that repriced. Like, wow, we missed our pricing by X. How do we find another way to tackle that? So there are just an entire set of business unknowns that get opened up once you go, okay, funded, now let's bring this to market. And then the transition from that all the way into the consumer's hand is a significant one. It was certainly in the life cycle of the business, something that I look back on and go, wow, we underestimated it. And it was just a ton of work and way more money than we had anticipated that it would be. We're better for it. We had to figure a lot of things out, but we underestimated it for sure. It would be a piece of advice I would give, future campaigners or those who have live campaigns now, is just get ready and be prepared for bringing a product to market. Like it's a lot.
It's hard work, but it's a good problem to have, right?
That's yeah, for sure. And then I think there's another part of it as well, which is you start to future plan. So, let's say you have a $500,000 campaign and you kind of like, you don't stop there, right? Like you want to now bring the product to market, fulfill those crowdfunded orders. Are you then going to receive that feedback and then go back for round 2 of production? Or are you going to produce enough in round 1 where you're going to fulfill those crowdfunding orders and prepare yourselves for the next 4, 5, 6 months? In which case, what does that look like? And, you know, it's a very difficult number to project because you can under project, you can over project. You probably don't have a ton of free cash left over after the campaign by the time you tool and things like that. So that question, I encourage campaigners to spend a lot of time thinking about because it makes a big difference. You can either leave a ton of opportunity on the table because you undershoot it, or you overshoot it and now you're not ready for the full transition yet. So that balancing act is something that I think I would just speak to 5 other founders who have done it and learn from them and pick up their tips because they've done it.
So in your experience, what happened? Did you order just enough product to cover the amount of perks that you had needed to send, or did you order more?
We ordered more. And we came into, so we shipped about a year after we first started our, like almost a year to the day. So we launched our Indiegogo campaign, and then a year later we shipped, or we had the product in the hand of consumers, and we had planned enough inventory to run through the rest. So about 6 more months of 2019, and we undershot it. So we actually had I would say we had a fairly difficult time in the transition from crowdfunding to direct to consumer. There's a big gap to leap across there. But once we made the leap and then we figured out how to market the product to direct to consumer that's not a crowdfunding consumer, we just started to take off, and we left a lot on the table because we ran out of inventory. So like 2019, I think we ran out of inventory November 15th. So we missed Black Friday, we missed holiday buying. I mean, as a kitchen product, that's like some brands make 40%, 50% of their revenue in those 2 months alone for the entire year. So that kind of sucked, but it was also like, if you'd have told me go and buy 4 times or 3 times more than you would, I would have laughed at you. I would have been like, how are we going to do that? Like, what data do you have to tell me that we should buy that? And that's the challenge between, even if you have a successful crowdfunding campaign, it's just figuring that out. And every business, every product's going to be different. But we left some stuff on the table for sure.
I would echo that sentiment that Alex just shared as well, just that leap from crowdfunding to actually shipping out product. We definitely had some missteps ourselves as well, just as context and background, when we were thinking about how to construct the car seat, we really couldn't follow the traditional model of creating the traditional car seat, which is typically like a big plastic shell, then it's wrapped in foam, and then fabric that's sprayed with flame retardants, right? So we use an aluminum, aerospace grade aluminum for our frame instead of plastic. And then from there, the most challenging part, and was what, kind of delayed our ship out, was this challenge to create a safe, comfortable seat without foam. So, we were inspired by the Herman Miller office chairs that we were sitting on at the time, and we decided to experiment with the tension mesh to create the seat. And so we ended up creating this like really amazing wool polyester blend, which currently makes our seat. And it's super durable and comfy for those long car and plane rides. And it's inherently flame resistant with no added FR chemicals, all this great stuff. But it takes a lot of testing with the lab. We were working with multiple centers to kind of ensure that it was going to be as eco-friendly as we had hoped. And the material supplier actually, like after we closed our campaign, we had to delay the launch or the ship out date because there were some hiccups with the testing schedule. And, we lost some backers. Some backers wanted their money back because they needed the travel car seat by X date that we had promised. And at the time it was a grueling decision because we really didn't want to let down those early backers that were believing in our brand and our product. But at the same time, we didn't want to compromise the integrity of the product in the long term as well, by rushing the proper testing and process at onset. So, and that was kind of the impetus for us, thinking through how to launch on DTC before going on Amazon as well, because we wanted to kind of iron out all of those processes with inventory and shipping and all of that before we kind of expanded our distribution channels.
And Tracy, that's really good insight. Could you take a little bit more time kind of talking about that transition, kind of like what you wish you knew in advance to making that shift from Indiegogo to Amazon?
Yeah, sure. I think the only thing that we had wished we'd known up front, honestly, was, just really how critical inventory management is for Amazon FBA. You just want to really make sure that your team is on top of that shipment schedule. Like I said, we had always planned on being on Amazon. We had always planned on an omni-channel strategy to launch on DTC, wholesale, and Amazon. And we wanted to have a couple months of DTC experience before launching FBA. We actually waited, we started shipping out to our Indiegogo backers in May of 2019, and we didn't launch on Amazon until December that year. Just to give our team some time to set up our ASINs, ensure our content was optimized, submit all of our product safety testing information that Amazon required. So we also did a ton of research, and we talked with a lot of other sellers prior to launching on Amazon. So we felt pretty prepared. But I would just say for any entrepreneurs joining the session today, just really think through the shipment schedule and because inventory management is really critical when working with Amazon. So.
And just to clarify there too, for folks who aren't as familiar with Amazon, FBA stands for Fulfillment by Amazon. So when a brand is selling their product on Amazon, there's two ways to fulfill inventory. You can either do merchant fulfilled, which is where the brand would be the one sending product to customers, or what we call FBA, which is where brands will send their product in bulk to our fulfillment centers. We warehouse the product and then pack and ship it as the orders come in. And especially for small businesses, FBA is obviously a great route if they don't have the manpower to be sending out all that inventory to customers. And brands who use FBA, it puts that Prime badge on the listing so that all customers who are Prime members can receive the product in 2 days.
Awesome. So I'll definitely let Casey and Andre kind of take the lead as we get more into the Amazon Launchpad part of the journey, but would love to know from Tracy and Alexander, both of you, like at what point did you hear about Amazon Launchpad? Tracy, I know you mentioned that you always said you were going to be on Amazon. How did you hear about the Launchpad program and what drew you to it?
Sure. We actually heard about Launchpad from a random outreach email from Casey, actually. So it was back in April 2020, after we had been live on Amazon for about 4 months or so. It was just really great timing for us because we had a lot of momentum on Amazon all the way up to the start of the pandemic in mid-March. And of course, we saw some downturn in sales volume when COVID hit, but it's been a really huge benefit for us working with Launchpad as we've navigated our way through 2020 and, eventually recovered that sales momentum.
Alexander, what about you? When did you first hear about the Launchpad program on Amazon?
We were introduced to Launchpad pretty early on in our Amazon journey. So not long after we had gotten, I think we've been in Launchpad I think we might have even started our Amazon journey on Launchpad. So once we had made that decision to have the product be available on Amazon, we were speaking with the Launchpad team and felt that it was like absolutely the right fit for our product and brand.
Awesome. And are there specific tools within Launchpad that you guys have found to be kind of most impactful, or which ones do you guys tend to really leverage? I guess
from our point of, I can go. From our point of view, we try to pull every possible lever that Launchpad gives us. Like if there's an opportunity to submit because you guys are doing a Mother's Day highlight, we want to submit for that and see if our product and brand is a fit. A+ content, great. We have the opportunity to make our listing better, stronger, great, let's do that. an opportunity to A/B test titles, images, things that are maybe not available if you're not in Launchpad yet, great. Yes, we definitely want to do that. So we literally pull every possible lever you guys give us. The latest benefit that we have is to actually have a dedicated account manager who works with us on strategy and growth initiatives, and provides us with data and ideas, and sort of advocates for us and nudges us to participate in certain things that maybe we didn't catch in Brand HQ, or we missed it in the email or whatever. So we pull on all those levers for sure.
Awesome.
And I would say something very similar. I think one of the highlights for us has been the A+ premium content. It really helps us tell a more compelling product story and helps us call out those features with additional imagery and copy and comparison charts and the like. I think working with the Launchpad strategic account support has also been a big help for everything from marketing advice to also working through cases. And like Alex, we've also made a point to apply for many of the special programs Launchpad has to offer. So we were really fortunate to have been selected for the IGTV video submission, and then also the Launchpad Innovation Grant, which is a grant that supports, the growth of small businesses on the platform. So we're really excited to be a grant recipient this year.
Awesome.
Casey and Andre, I guess from Launchpad's perspective, like what is it about Wavy and Prep Deck that kind of caught your eye, and like what do you think is contributing to their success on Amazon right now?
Yeah, I can take a first stab at this. So, at a high level, obviously there was, looking at your guys' campaigns, there was kind of that built-in demand already for the product that we saw through Indiegogo. And Tracy, you mentioned that I'd randomly reached out. It wasn't so random on my end. I came across your guys' product and said, wow, that's super innovative. Thought it'd be a great fit for the program. So I wanted to learn more about it. But really, we look for brands that are really trying to build a brand and take a holistic approach to building their brand, aside from other companies who might just have a product, versus, doing things like you mentioned, leveraging social media, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter to gain that market share, and drive awareness through those channels. And Tracy, earlier on, I like that term you mentioned, kind of priming the pump, so to speak, in terms of making sure that you have your email list ready to go and your PR ready to go. So there's a bunch of different factors that kind of layer into making sure that brands are successful, but leveraging everything that you can, and not staying, so focused on one particular thing or one particular channel. So that's kind of what we look for in terms of brands, looking at all the different factors in terms of building their business.
And additionally, right, speaking to that, we look for their teams, right? So we try to understand if this brand actually has a team that's actively involved and really strong with pushing on their Amazon business. So, we want to make sure that we're working with not just phenomenal brands, but phenomenal brand teams. So taking care of their Amazon business, making sure that they're managing the actual perception of their brand on Amazon, leveraging tools, pilot programs, and all of the things that is available for the brand. So hope that made sense towards the end, a little muffled, but ultimately just really looking to identify strong brands, looking to be proactive with the guidance that we offer.
Tracy, I know you mentioned that you had been on just like regular Amazon a couple of months before you started the Amazon Launchpad program. Can you like compare those two experiences at all, or like how have things changed now that you're with Launchpad?
Yeah, I would say that, we did a lot of the upfront work, and we were just trying to figure it out as we went, right? We took a lot of the data and information that we'd received from kind of, running our own D2C business and the advice of other sellers on Amazon. But a lot of it was just legwork that we had to do by ourselves, and it was kind of like learning to fly the plane while building it. So, and once you hit go on Amazon, you just gotta, make sure your inventory is tight and that you're shipping out, and, you're managing a lot of things. And so I think that the biggest difference has honestly just been with Launchpad, making our Amazon operations smoother. from the additional merchandising and exposure on the platform. But it's also just all that back end support and strategic guidance that I had mentioned earlier, just the advice on page optimization, the level of ad spend. We were working with outside agencies before, but not really seeing the ROAS that we were looking for at all times. And we were still calibrating as we were going. Just that having that advice in-house and having somebody in Amazon helping us work through cases and advising us on how to best leverage that A+ premium content has been super, super helpful for us. So I would just say smoother operations overall, and have somebody, at the ready to kind of help provide that insight and advice whenever we run into any issues.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, any other questions, you guys, on the Amazon Launchpad experience? Casey, Andre?
Yeah, so I guess from our point of view, now that we've talked through crowdfunding and you're selling on Amazon and all that, what's next? What's kind of the next part or next plan for you guys? And I know it's a little bit tricky with still in a pandemic, but I'd love to hear what's next for you guys.
Yeah, I can go. I mean, from our point of view, like we're now at the point where we've got the foot firmly on the gas. So we really started scaling. We reached some meaningful scale last year, and now we're at the point where we're really pushing that this year. We've got the next evolution of the product in tooling now. We've got some multiple new channels that we're opening up. We've really accelerated our omni-channel efforts, so we're quite selective in how we do that, but we have some interesting partnerships coming up there. We're really growing our D2C and our Amazon business, projecting our growth, and sort of the inventory situation we've had since day one just constantly rears its head and comes and knocks on our door and says, "Oh, you grew faster than you planned again. You're out of stock. Figure that out." So we constantly have to do that, deal with that. But we're really now at the point where we've got solid footing underneath us, and we're able to really spend time deepening the product offering. We're making a sort of small acquisition at the moment to expand our business offering as well. And then we've now got our eye towards international markets. I don't think we'll get any of them open this year, just because we're still struggling to meet demand in North America, but the opportunity is clearly there, and very, very likely the way that we'll go to those markets, especially at first, is with Amazon, just in part just because the infrastructure's there, right? And it means we don't have to go set up, a supply chain in Australia, a supply chain in Europe, a supply chain in the UK. And we have started having the Launchpad discussions with Europe and things. So yeah, that's where we're at now, 3 years after the campaign.
Great.
For us, we're coming out with definitely some additional accessories, some pals for the Pico later this summer, and we'll have some exciting new product launches next year as well. So definitely more to come on that front. And I think honestly, right now we're just very focused on kind of, the year ahead. 2020 has been tough for many, many businesses, but for us, with a premier product that is travel focused, in a world that's not allowed to travel, it's been tough for the past year, but, we're really seeing that increase in sales and that rebound, as there are more vaccines and being distributed and everything. So we're really seeing that bounce back, and we're just excited for the year to come, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think a lot of brands that we work with and talk to, they launch on Amazon, and then they're at a point where they're like, okay, well, what's next, and is there a V2 or next version of our product? And Alexander, I think you mentioned this a little bit, but I think the beauty of not only Indiegogo and crowdfunding, but also Amazon is reading customer reviews. You can say, hey, if I'm going to go out and create a next version, like I'm going to take all the reviews that I've heard and all the feedback from customers and use that into the production and thought process for how we can make the product better. Is that something that you guys have really looked into in terms of understanding reviews? And I know, Alexander, you mentioned, you were just in the beginning, it was family and friends saying, yes, go do this, but really getting that wider perspective. Does that play into kind of phase 2 for your product or brand?
Massively. Yeah, I mean, massively. Like I would say, so we have 2 new products coming out, and I would say that 85% of everything that went into making up those products was customer feedback. I think one thing, because we're in a physical product, like you get quite good and fast feedback coming out of your crowdfunding campaign. But if you've hard tooled your product, those are not easy modifications to make. So some things you can make on the fly, and some feedback is great, and some stuff you have to sort of just take into the development cycle. And okay, we're going to tackle that in version 2. We're going to tackle that, in a different shape, size, color, finish, whatever it is you're working on. But yeah, I mean, without a doubt, having that is something that we use for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. I think just to kind of tie everything back in, I would love to ask both Tracy and Alexander, like if you had to give one piece of advice for entrepreneurs that are just getting started on Indiegogo or just kind of putting together their prototype, what would that advice be?
I think I kind of mentioned it earlier, but make those investments in marketing and building up your brand, and get those early adopters and believers in your brand and your story early on, because it really makes a big difference in terms of priming the pump, and will ultimately lead to the success of your launch. That's what I would say.
It's hard to distill it down to one thing. There's so many different points of the crowdfunding journey, from your initial product ideation and prototyping to launch strategy and list building and campaign management and backer updates and all that sort of thing. I would just encourage any entrepreneur or founder going through the crowdfunding journey to just really understand how much work is going to go into it. There's no make a quick buck on crowdfunding. Like, I think that there might be a misperception out there that there are a lot of very, very successful campaigns. The amount of work and time and effort and risk that those entrepreneurs and their teams put into those campaigns to get to that point cannot be understated. There is no quick buck on crowdfunding. It's a lot of work. It's a deep commitment. It's often a multiple year commitment. And if you want to have any type of long-term success, I think you need to truly understand the life cycle that it will take to be successful in crowdfunding. And the best thing that you can do is speak to those that have done it at all different stages. Get some advice, on customer acquisition, get some advice on brand building, get some advice on production sourcing, speak to the people who shipped internationally, figure out how they did it, and then start speaking to those who have made the transition and just learn their lessons, because they paid for those lessons. They're going to give you free advice. It's a no-brainer to do that, and that would sort of probably be the advice that I would give that could give you the most bang for your buck. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, you guys. Looks like we've got a couple of questions in the Q&A before we wrap up. Casey and Andre, question about Launchpad. How long do brands need to be in the Launchpad program?
Yeah, so when a brand first joins, they've got to be in the program for 12 months. The reason for that is some of the tools and things like that we have are kind of compounding. So it'll take some time to really help kind of get that flywheel going, so to speak. But like I said before, if at any time after 12 months, if a brand would like to exit the program, they can do so. They just submit an exit survey to us, and we'll unwind everything. So, and then also there at the other end of the spectrum, there's no limit there. So if a brand wants to stay in the program, if they're coming out with new product launches and stuff like that, we're more than happy to continue to support their brand.
Awesome. Okay. And then looks like somebody is already on Amazon. They're asking, do you need to be new to Amazon to join Launchpad?
No, and that's
And I
kind
can
of
take this.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You may not see me. My computer's giving me some difficulties, but You do not have to be new in order to be a part of Amazon Launchpad, but we do have a hard block around well, it was recently 3 years, so not selling on Amazon longer than 3 years, which was recently lifted to 4 years. So selling on Amazon less than 4 years and generating less than $5 million in annualized sales on Amazon.
Okay, and then a question, I think we covered this a little bit, Casey, but the additional costs associated with Launchpad. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so when a brand sells their product on Amazon, there's fees associated with different parts. Every brand has a standard referral fees, and that ranges from 8 to 15% depending on what category you're in. For Amazon Launchpad, it tacks on an additional percentage on top of the standard referral fees. So the brands that are doing between $0 to $1 million are paying an additional 5%. The brands that are doing over $1 million in their trailing 12-month sales on Amazon are paying 3%. So that's how the fee structure works. And there's no additional fees outside of that associated with Launchpad. So that fee covers everything, all the tools and whatnot within Amazon Launchpad.
Awesome. I've got a couple of questions here about geography. So we've got one person, their headquarters is currently in Thailand, and then another question about Canada. So if you are in one of those countries, are you still able to launch on Launchpad?
Yes, absolutely. So we work with brands all over the world. Just as long as they're selling their product and can get product to the U.S. To sell in the U.S. marketplace, then absolutely. So we encourage brands to apply to the program from wherever they're headquartered or based out of. But as far as the Launchpad program itself, so Launchpad as a program only exists right now in the U.S., India, Australia, and Europe.
Awesome. And then quick question here on category. Are books or comics or graphic novels eligible to apply to Launchpad?
At this point, we don't have any book sellers in the program at the moment, but we can certainly follow back up on that piece. I think when we think about innovation and unique features and things like that, we'll have to chat with the seller to figure out if that's an option or not. So more to come on that.
Awesome. And then question, I'll open it up to both Alexander and Tracy, kind of going back to pre-launch on your Indiegogo days, questions about kind of how much marketing budget you guys used, or, like what sort of marketing initiatives you guys took. Also, suggestions for getting product endorsements from, like kind of more the PR aspect. Do you guys have any advice particularly in that area?
I mean, from our point of view, we did try some PR outreach, but we didn't have product to send. And I think that was a big limitation. I don't know if that applies to every brand or not, but for us, we sort of hit some walls on that. I think even as innovative as our product is, once we had launched, we did get some coverage because it was so innovative, which I think was great. We invested heavily in everything we did before the campaign. We invested in the photography, we invested in the video, we invested in the campaign page, we invested in community building and having a list so that we could announce when we were live and have those people interested in coming in. And then I get asked a question all the time, which is like, well, how much should we allocate for paid media? I think it's no secret that to have a successful crowdfunding campaign, you're going to have to drive in a very almost D2C approach. You're going to have to go and acquire customers through the likes of Facebook or Instagram or whatever paid channels work for you. And I took a very open-ended approach to it. So every dollar that we spend today on is essentially in the campaign tomorrow, so we can fund it almost on a credit card. So I didn't set a fixed budget per se. We set testing budgets, we had KPIs, we had, acquisition numbers we wanted to hit. But once you're hitting them, you really just want to see how quickly you can unlock the scale. And so I don't ever have like a specific budget answer on the paid media side. I'm not sure if Tracy has a similar approach or it was different, but that was my experience.
Yeah, no specifics on the paid media and like I just don't recall at this point, but I do remember in the early days we were just leveraging our own networks and just the media contacts that we had. One of our founders is a former CEO of Patagonia, so he was able to leverage his network, and we put out just like our own press release about this former CEO of Patagonia taking his expertise from the outdoor gear space and applying it to family products. And so that was really compelling. And so that kind of initially introduced our brand out into the world, and we kind of just did what we could to leverage the interested kind of media outlets that may have reached out, big or small, after that point. We did a lot in order to build our brand. We're a very mission driven company, especially given our founders history working with sustainably and environmentally responsible companies. I myself come from a sustainability background, doing strategy on corporate social responsibility at the Walt Disney Company for a number of years before joining Wavy. So we really leveraged the sustainability aspect of our product story, and also just the design aspect, right? It just doesn't look like any other car seat out in the market. So we just leveraged everything that we could. I think what was also really helpful was engaging the car seat tech community just around child passenger safety, and getting their feedback on the product and getting the word out there from a stakeholder engagement standpoint. So those two things went hand in hand, and it really helped support our launch and our growth after launching on Indiegogo and D2C. So
Awesome. Yeah, it's all about finding your audience for sure. All right, last question here. We're over time actually, but bringing it back to Amazon Launchpad, there's a question here. Do you need to be shipping product in order to be on Amazon Launchpad?
As far as that goes, so for a brand to go live within Launchpad as it relates to the marketing and the merchandising and stuff like that we drive, yes, the brand's got to have inventory available so customers can actually order the product. For some of the bigger marketing events and things like that we do, the brand's got to be using fulfillment by Amazon. So they got to have inventory into Amazon fulfillment so that it has that Prime badge on the listing. But we can still engage with and chat with brands prior to their actual launch and inform them of everything about Launchpad and make sure that they're ready to go, when their inventory actually arrives.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you still have any questions about Amazon Launchpad, you can check out their page on Indiegogo's experts directory, or reach out to them directly at launchpad-applications@amazon.com. There's no need to write that down. We're going to be sending out the link and contact information in a follow-up email after this event. Just to wrap up, I'd like to thank our speakers again for taking the time to participate today. Alexander, Tracy, I think you really inspired and helped a lot of people with your stories and advice. So thank you so much. And big thank you to Casey and Andre as well for giving us the inside scoop on everything that Amazon Launchpad has to offer. All right, that does it for today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And thanks to the Indiegogo team and for Alexander and Tracy as well. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
All righty.
Bye.